Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Jonathan. For those of you who don't know me, this is going to be the third installment in our tutorial series on how to play the guitar for beginners. So just to quickly recap, we looked at three chords the last time we did our lesson, and those three chords were the following. We looked at G major, we looked at C major, and we looked at D major. Again, G major, C major, and D major. Also note, a side note, that when we are playing the D major chord, we are always to play from the fifth wire and not play the sixth wire, which is the top wire. You don't play that. You start playing from your fifth wire. So it sounds like so. So guys, how's it going? What's happening? Have you guys dug out that guitar from the attic, or have you bought a new guitar, borrowed a guitar, or the guitar that's been laying there all the time, have you picked it up and decided to give it a shot and have a look and see how that G, C, D chord sounds? How's it been going? All right, I'm hoping and I'm really very optimistic that you guys have been doing pretty well. So I'm going to follow up a few things on tuning. If you were battling to sound like this, like that, or like that, there may be a tuning issue we might have. From the previous tutorial, I looked at just getting you onto the guitar because I know that you are all very excited to go about playing the guitar, but you may be playing and it may not necessarily be sounding like this, all right? So this is what we're going to do to take a look at what our guitar sounds like. So let's go over our guitar strings, all right? So our guitar strings are numbered as follows from the bottom and in ascending order moving up as mentioned on the previous tutorial. Starting off, we start with our number 1 wire, which is also the E wire. Number 2, it's also the B wire. Number 3, it's your G wire. Number 4, D. Number 5, A. And number 6 is your E wire. These two wires are exactly the same. As you notice, you've got a sharper sound on the number 1 wire, that's the bottom wire, this one here, and you've got a much lower sound on the E wire. Alright? So, how do we go about tuning a guitar? You've got this guitar and it sounds nothing like this, but you want to get it here. Alright. So, what I would suggest to you guys, I'm not being paid for suggesting this app to you, but I think it's a very useful app. It's called Guitar Tuner, like the fish, yes, not tuner, right? And it's got a picture that looks go into that app. Now, I'm not going to do a very comprehensive presentation of this because it's going to be a bit of a problem for us to see. So we've got our guitar there, right? Looking exactly the same and in the same sort of position as I've got my guitar here. Now, what is happening on the app? We've got at the bottom, right? You won't be able to see it very clearly there, but once I load up the pictures, it'll make more sense. That starts from the bottom string, that's our number 1 string. You got your number 2 string, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. And what's handy about this particular app is that each note has got a sound attached to it, so it will help you to also train your listening ear to what your wire should actually sound like. So that is part of the reason I became a musician, because I've got a good ear, right? I know very little about music theory, but I've got a very good ear for music. So teachers, mute this tutorial right now. That's the reason why I cannot read music, guys, and it's just so boring for me because I just want to play. All right, but if you need to get a little bit better than a beginner's level or grade naught, and you want to go to grade 1, then please call upon the services of a qualified music teacher or guitar teacher or tutor. Right, so what's happening here? Let's take a look. I'm going to show you a few things about this app. On the right side of, there's a little button there that says auto. Now that auto button is there for those of us who've got our guitars and they may just be a teeny weeny bit, or maybe a little more than a teeny weeny bit off tune, and we just want to get it back on tune. But assuming we have a guitar that's not on tune, or a brand new guitar that we've received for Christmas, but now we've got a reason to play it because of lockdown, we can't do anything more than that. So we're going to need to change that to the manual mode. So once you've changed that to the manual mode, you notice that it moves to the left. It moves to the left, right? That means that it's now in manual mode. So what does that mean? So you'll see when I'm playing the guitar, I'm playing different strings, but it just continues to stubbornly stay on the E string. Okay, and the reason for that is because we are now in manual mode. All right, so that's the bottom E wire, right? Right up there. Oh, my apologies, that's the top wire. The bottom wire is there. So we're gonna need our guitar to sound like this. There we go, we spot on. Let's say for argument's sake, I'm just going to do a little adjustment away from here. So let's go back and take a look. I didn't really do anything there, did I? So let's just try and change that. So again, that's telling us something. It's not happy. Whenever we see red, we must know it's unhappy, all right? That's our cue. There's a little description that says there that our guitar is too low. So that means we need to make our wire a little higher because it's too low. You do recall, I mentioned that this E string and that string is exactly the same note. It's E. However, this bottom one is a high E and that's a low E. All right. So we need to get this a little higher because it's starting to sound a little bit too much like his friend up here. So we're gonna need to get that a little tighter. So let's just try and tighten that. Sounding a little better. I'm waiting for the cue from my tuner. No. Gently. Just note, guys, this is very, very small movements, nothing too drastic. I just want to get it a little closer to the microphone. Remember, I'm playing the first wire. And there's music to our ears. One more time. It's basically telling us that we've got our guitar. Sorry. We've got our guitar and we've got our number 1 string tuned up. All right. You would go to every string in a similar fashion. Remember, E, B, G, D, A, E. So when we are looking at our B wire, that's what it needs to sound like. So let's hear what my B wire sounds like. Sounded pretty much like it, right? Let's try the G wire. Nothing's coming up. Our trusty friend there is not even moving at all. What's going on? The reason that nothing is happening is because we've got our tuner in manual mode. Yes, guys, you got it right. Manual mode. So we need to change that to G, right? Here we go. There we go. We are on tune. Next, we're going to change to the D. That's now number 4 string. If you find that you are getting a little too close to the red line, okay, don't go quickly to adjust the string. Try to make sure that your phone or your tuner is a little closer to your microphone, all right? So it gives you a better indication or much more clearer indication. Next, we're going to go to the A string. We are tuned up, and our E string, top wire, we've forgotten again to change to manual mode, top wire. And there we are, tuned up 100%. Okay guys, so we have our guitar now tuned. So there's no issues with our instrument. We understand that our guitar is now 100% tuned. We've got a tuner to qualify that we are now tuned up. So if you are still having a challenge, guys, as to how your guitar is sounding, and it's not necessarily sounding like that when you play G, when you play C, or when you play D, what you need to do is you need to revisit my second tutorial with the finger placements and focus and ensure. There might be a problem with the way you are holding the wire. You might not be holding it hard enough. You might be holding it a bit too close to the other wire, or the other finger might be touching the other wire. It might be muting it, right? So instead of playing like that, you might just, you understand, if you're playing, just revisit that and make sure, see, if you don't press hard enough, note that if you're going to have your finger on the fret, that's the steel part here that runs vertically, you're gonna get that kind of buzzing sound, you see. So make sure that your fingers are within the fret, that's within this black portion here, right? And you are holding, that's what it should sound like, okay? So just focus on that and try to practice that. Keep practicing, keep practicing. It's going to take you some time before you develop calluses like I've got on the tips of my fingers, as you can see. That's where the strings have gotten used to sitting. So when I play the guitar, they just fit in there, you see. So I don't really have that problem. But sometimes every now and again when I'm not holding the chord as I should hold the chord, then you see, then I sound a little off myself. So don't fret, keep persevering, you'll get there. Now I want to revisit the previous lesson for those of us who have got inquiring minds like I do. I mentioned from the last tutorial that we are going to be focusing on a chord progression that was starting our song or starting any song. And I'm sure that each and every one of you have even tried and experimented and been a little adventurous. I hope you have, and tried to actually play a song, because we're going to get there uh, during the next tutorial. All right, that's going to be on Monday. So, what did we go over last week? We said we're going to start off with the G chord. That's the chord I showed you. Then we went to the C chord, and I did make mention that the reason I'm showing you the C chord right after the G chord is because it's just a small movement of your fingers, just moving two fingers down and removing your pinky finger from the G chord and putting down your index finger. And then we looked at the D chord. I also mentioned from the previous tutorial, without obviously trying to repeat this, is that was a chord progression. Now you might ask, why do we focus on G, C, and D? How am I supposed to know that if I don't know anything about music? How do I focus on that? Okay, first things first. When we're starting a song from the G chord, it's not necessary that we're going to be moving to the C chord. We might just move to the D chord, and we might just move in that kind of fashion, all right? So the arrows should actually be drawn like that. They can move in any direction, and you could do that, and there's a whole different, you know, uh, kind of ways that chord progression can actually move. But again, to answer your question, why or how do I know that? So in music, you may have remembered from kindergarten, we learnt a song, do a deer, a female deer. Okay, I'm going to stop there, guys. I don't want to traumatize you. You do remember that song, right? Now that song was the song that we sing when we are calling out the notes on a particular scale. Now, what is a scale? In music, we've got 7 notes. Yes, I do know there's 12 notes on the chromatic scale. We've got 7 notes. We're going to keep it very, very basic because this is a basic level tutorial. It usually starts with do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. First do and the 8th do is exactly the same, because after you finish the 7, you go back to number 1. So let's see what we are talking about here. So when we start on note G, not chord G, guys, there's a difference. Note G. Our music notes follows a consecutive pattern. By that I mean there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There is no H, guys. I know you'd want the music guys to think about adding on an 8th one. Maybe if you get good enough, we might consider it, okay? So let's look at this again. Consecutive notes, right? And it goes back to the starting point. So if you're starting from any note, if we're starting from G, we're going to go G, we're going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, and I did say we go back to number 1. Okay, I'm just going to write, just for reference, guys, just for reference, we're going to write the G here in red. Okay, now for those that are music professionals, guys, I do, and I'm very, very well aware of the fact that there is no F on the G scale. There's an F sharp. But for those that are still learning, we will just keep that as a natural F. We'll get to that later. Okay, natural F. So if we want to number our scale, guys, we number our scale as follows. Note I said there's 7, all right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. and I did mention that is 8, but we don't count 8, we move back to number 1. That's where we end. Where we start the scale, we end the scale at the same position. Okay. We might end it on a different octave. Yes, that can happen as well, but for purposes of this particular tutorial, we're going to keep it very, very basic, right? Our chord progression that we got up here is known as a 1-4-5 chord progression. Guys, you don't need to know this. I'm only explaining to those who have an inquiring mind and are curious as to why there should be only G, C, and D. That's just to help your understanding. You don't need to know this. However, if you know this, you're going to be well ahead of me as far as these tutorials are concerned. So I said a 1-4-5 chord progression. Now, what does that mean? That means the way we've got our scale numbered, we're going to only focus on number 1 because it's a 1-4-5 chord progression, number 4, and we've got our 5, right? Now, things are starting to open up, right? You notice we've got G at number 1, you've got C at number 4, and you've got 5 at, you've got D at the 5th position. If you move that up, we've got G corresponding with our number 1. We've got C from our previous lesson corresponding with number 4, and we've got D corresponding with our number 5. Hence, we've got a 1-4-5 chord progression. Now, guys, note these are notes on a scale, but for purposes of this particular explanation, we're going to assume that those are chords. That's the reason why we are playing a G, we're going to be playing a C, and we're going to be playing a D. Okay, I'm sure, guys, you are eager to ask me, then what happens to all the other unnecessary numbers? Guys, those are not unnecessary numbers. Those are going to be discussed in future tutorials as we move from the 1-4-5 progression. I want you guys to understand the background behind how we got to the chord progression up there, G, C, and D. If you wish, as homework, I would like you to look at the C scale for the next tutorial, because I'm going to be looking at chords. Follow the same method, guys, that I've put up here, and see, before I get to the next lesson on not next Monday, but the following Monday, the next Monday, we're going to be starting to learn how to play a song using our G, C, D chord progression. So work on the C scale. The C scale is about the easiest scale because the C scale does not have any sharps, it doesn't have any flats. What that means is, you know, when I mentioned to my more professional audience that that is a F sharp, that's exactly what I was referring to. So, guys, I hope that this tutorial was insightful and it has helped you. I am happy to take any questions that you guys might have on my channel. Guys, please feel free. I'm just going to revise one more time for you on the chords again and the chord fingering. Try and put it up as close as possible for you. G, C, and D. Again, G, C, and D. My C was a little messy there, guys. Let's just have a look at that one more time. Get that. G and D. Guys, I want to thank you once again for joining my channel and for allowing me to have 25 minutes of your time. I hope that this particular lesson has been very insightful. If you have got any comments, and I appreciate all the comments, if you haven't subscribed, please feel free to do so. I would really encourage you to do so. So when I put up new content, you will get a notification immediately. There's also a little bell at the bottom of the screen there that you can also indicate should you wish to receive content notifications. Thank you guys. Stay safe. God bless you.